Osinachi, it's good to have you here.
Thank you, Will. It's good to be here.
So I would like to have you introduce yourself the way you introduce yourself.
Let's see now. I hope I don't leave anything out. But I'm Osinachi. I'm a Nigerian artist based in Lagos, Nigeria. I make digital art using Microsoft Word. I've been doing that for about 17 years now. And I work in the NFT space. I use NFTs as a technology to sort of push my work. I've been in the space for about 6 years now, being the first African artist in the NFT space or crypto art space. And yes, I've done a few things in the space that are worth mentioning, like collaborations, especially with people in the traditional art world, say Christie, Sotheby's, Bonhams, and some galleries and the rest of them. And yeah, here I am in Toledo as the artist in residency at the Toledo Museum of Art. And it's been a really awesome journey so far. I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. So NFTs for about 6 years, digital artists about 15 plus.
17 years
17
now.
years now. So how did you get introduced to the technology on the blockchain?
So 2016 was when I was finishing what we call the National Youth Service Corps in Nigeria, NYS, which is a mandatory one-year program for people who have graduated from the university. And I was in the north doing that. And within the period when I was doing that, I started thinking, if I'm not able to get a job, because I studied library and information science, if I'm not able to get a job using my certificate, what can I do? I have my skill as a digital artist. Maybe it's time to explore this thing I've been doing for years and see how I can make something out of it. And I started looking for opportunities as an artist. Naturally, I was reaching out to galleries and the rest of them, and the response would be, yes, we love your work, but it's digital, so there are issues around digital art. And I set up 2 Google Alerts, one for digital art, another for visual art, and one of these days I was exploring the email from Google Alerts, digital art, and I saw something about art on the blockchain. Yeah. And I started reading and saw what these guys were doing, trying to put art on the blockchain to sort of offer solution to all of these issues that the trad art guys were talking about. And the guys turned out to be Rare Art, R-A-R-E. Sadly, they're no longer there. I mean, the market, the space has been up and down. So I reached out to them and they got me on board. Rare Arts Marketplace was the first marketplace where I had my digital artworks sold. I mean, it wasn't really that big of a deal in terms of the finance and whatever. Yeah. But for me, it felt like a sort of elevation beyond Instagram, where I just post my work and people comment and like and all of that. So this felt like engaging with collectors, even in the digital sense of it, and also engaging with other artists in the space.
So you create on Microsoft Word, a word processor, you use digital art. And I wonder, is that an intentional constraint, or is this something that just be a lack of resources? You didn't have Photoshop or Illustrator? Like, how did that happen? I
always joke that just as Harry Potter's wand chose him, Word chose me. And what I mean by that is I started out as a reader as a kid. I used to read so much. I was even the class reader, even in secondary school, junior secondary and senior secondary. I think it's your high school here. And I used to read for the class, read on my own when I get home. Even when I used to hawk wares around the city of Aba, which is where I grew up, for my grandmother. I would go and buy second-hand books, and go home and read on my own. So reading, I started having the hunger to write also. And I started writing as a kid. And from writing, I wanted to show my work to other people. So the internet had emerged, in Aba then. The cyber cafes were opening up. You could go in, buy a ticket for 100 naira for 1 hour, whatever. And I kept bugging my dad because he was the first person in our family to start using the internet because he's a businessman. Before, he used to send out letters, and the internet came and emails were there for him to use for his business. And so one of these days on a Saturday, he took me to a cyber cafe, opened my first email. It was a Yahoo mail, and that was it. It got busy, and I decided to actually get this thing, and I would go whenever I had the time to the cyber cafe, buy the tickets, slot it in, and do my thing. One of the things that I used to do was to type on Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
I remember then that once I slot in my tickets and the computer is open, I'd go straight and look for Microsoft Word because I need it. If it's not there, I'd look for another computer to use, right? And once Microsoft Word is there, what I'd do is to settle down and start typing my manuscripts. Badly written poems and short stories because I wanted to send them out to literary magazines, that were just emerging. And sometimes I'd get bored, of course. Sometimes I want to illustrate what I was writing about because the books I had seen, the books I had read as a kid, they had illustrations. And so if I'm writing about a monkey, maybe I want to illustrate, show that I'm writing about a monkey. And I started playing around with the drawing tools on Word. And that was where it took off. I found out at some point that it was better for me to create visually using Microsoft Word than to write using Microsoft Word. I'm not so good with grammar. English is not my first language, with the editing and all. So I had to write paragraph after paragraph. But with the visual, with art, it was like just paint it. And it has the same artistic weight as just a literary artwork. That's where it started. I kept exploring it through the end of my secondary school, up into the university. And I didn't take it seriously, of course, until 2016 when I was about, how do I go now to start this adulting thing? Yeah.
And so you mentioned a little bit about the volatility in the marketplace. Rare is no longer here. We're having a big conversation about crypto and the value of cryptocurrencies today. And there are a lot of people following your footsteps from the continent who are finding a path in crypto art, in digital art on the blockchain. Can you what's your best argument, or can you make a case for longevity of art on the blockchain and the value?
Well, in terms of the longevity and the value of it, first of all, the value is tied to the scarcity, which is provable on chain, right? And in terms of the longevity of it, I've had a lot of artists. I was even having a chat with one a few moments ago, and he said it's been a while since he made a sale and all of that, and it's discouraging to him. And yeah, that happens. And it's not the first time it's happening in the space. An artist can go, say 1 year, you haven't made a sale for one of one. You could maybe be selling your editions and all of that. But what comes with that is patience, right? As an artist, it could also be a time for you to focus on creating and reevaluating your creative process when the market is the way it is, right? And that is what I tell artists. Yes, it's good because in the space you're expected to do everything as an artist. It's decentralized. You're expected to make the art, market the art, connect with collectors, just tweet every day, right? And not many people can do that. And so an artist needs to take the time off to actually focus on their craft, focus on their work and create. And this period, which is like the bear market, is the perfect time to do that as an artist. It's also the perfect time to engage in collaborations. If you want to make a mark in the space, you can't do it alone. I know the space is decentralized. I'm glad. I'm happy for that. I keep saying decentralization is a journey. It's never a destination, right? And what would even get us closer to having like better decentralization in the space is collaboration. So I always encourage artists to collaborate, maybe with themselves, with other artists, collaborate with institutions, reach out to galleries and all of that. That is important. That is one way to sort of create longevity for your work in the space, because collectors want to know if you will still be there 3 years, 4 years to come. The space is not like the traditional art space where most collectors are interested in the elderly artists who maybe 10 or 20 years will no longer be with us.
Yeah.
In the space, collectors are interested in you being there. You're not just coming to make a few sales and disappear, right? Because when you disappear, maybe there isn't much value for your work any longer because you're no longer in the space, right? So collaboration can give an artist in the space that the tools that they need actually. When the artist has created, what happens with marketing, what happens with these other things, reaching out to collectors and all of that. When you collaborate with some other people in the space or projects in the space or institutions, right, it gives you an edge, right? You only have to worry about your creating. And then when you do that, then you are sure of longevity. One other thing I want to mention is that there's always this way of tying crypto art to crypto. I know there's crypto there. When you talk about NFTs, people also think crypto because of how we've started out in the space and how it is now. But it doesn't necessarily have to be so that when the crypto market is having an issue, it affects the crypto art market. This happens because they are interconnected, but they don't have to be interconnected. There are marketplaces that are allowing collectors to collect using their card. You can use your bank card to collect NFTs. And I think this is something we need to encourage in the space so that the art side of the space can keep moving on, even if the crypto side is experiencing some downtime.
Part of what you talked about with the value of the art is some of what could be described as a utility. Like, what does ownership in this piece give me the ability to do? Can you talk a little bit about how you as an artist view the utility side? It's also my ticket to the party or it's also my dinner with Osinachi, instead of just I have a great piece of art that I own.
I might be a purist in the sense of the purist digital art. I don't think utility is the main thing, right, in the NFT space. I think that the art is the main thing. Those who collected, the people who collected people's work at Christie's weren't thinking about utility. It's about this work that is history making. Let's, go in and be a part of the history. Utility is good, but that is not what should be expected by people who are really collectors in the space. Maybe we'll have to come up with another name for people who just want utility and not the art itself, right? Because you can't call yourself a collector and you're talking about utility only. So utility, it's good when an artwork is good. When you look at it, you love the work. It's also good if the artist says there's some utility to it. But the utility won't be there probably 10 years from now, but the art is going to be there. That same thing applies to the money we're always talking about in the space. The money may not be there maybe 10 years from now, but the art will still be there. That is why I tell people to talk about the art. So collectors shouldn't really focus. If you're really a collector, you shouldn't be focused on utility, right? There's a project that is coming out where I made like 2 artworks that sort of show that where an artist who has promised utility is cashing out.
Yeah.
But the artist who is making good art isn't seeing so much money, right?
Yeah,
and that is the irony that we see in the space. And that needs to change, really.
Yeah, there was this tweet I saw that you put up, and it said, "Buy that artwork today. It might be out of your reach tomorrow."
That's true.
And I thought I love that, but based on your response to this previous question, and also there are so many people coming into the art collection space via digital art. How do we get more sophisticated about knowing what actually has value, and the floor is set, reasonably because of the quality of this work, or this one is just high because it's hype?
First of all, there's 2 sides to that. I think there's the subjective side, right, which is the person who is buying the work. You've seen the work, right, and the objective side, you've seen the work and you love the work, right? You're seeing the work, you love it. Fine, you go ahead and buy. You don't care whether other people are talking about the work or not. You just love it and you're buying it. And then there's the side about aping, right? Because so many people are talking about this. You want to you want to buy it. I think that the side where I would sort of go with these people who are buying the work for the sake of the work, right? If you're buying the work for the sake of the work, it contributes to the space in a positive way. It adds to the quality of art being made in the space. You may not be an expert, but you don't have to be an expert to walk into a museum and say, I like this work, right? So people should learn to talk about the arts, and that helps to add quality to the space. When you're just talking about the money, there are people who are good when it comes to creating marketing around a project in such a way that you feel like you're missing so much if you don't go in, right? It doesn't mean that the work they are marketing has quality. There are projects, especially the most of the projects that have been put out a few months back, a few years back, that the focus is not on the arts. So they are collectibles, basically. They are not actually crypto art, right? Yeah. So the focus is not on the arts, and that's fine if you want to ape in because others are aping in. But conversations around the arts being made in the space, right? It helps to add value to the space, because as an artist, I care because I like it when people are talking about the work. It helps me understand where my mind was when I was creating this work. It helps me understand what I've contributed to the world, right? It helps the artist who is coming up somewhere in Nigeria to understand that if I have to make it in this space, then I have to create quality artworks, right? And that is very much needed.
So, but there's a level deeper there on the level of sophistication, because we're getting so many new people into collecting. You know, even our friend Adam, who's at the museum, the director of the museum, I will send him a piece of art that I like, and he'll send me where it was derived from. Like, this art is derivative of some other artist that you may not even be aware of. So, coming into this space, if I'm new to digital art and I see, you know, a piece by John Doe over there, but I don't know that John Doe's work is derivative of Osinachi, you know. So how do I get that level of sophistication?
That is what curation. That is why curation is important in this space. When we came into the space, we thought, oh, we don't need curation, decentralized, and all of that. But we found out that the noise became too much in the space, and so curation was very much needed. And marketplaces have started curating. For example, I had an accelerator program called Africa here, where in collaboration with Maker's Place, which is one of the marketplaces, to bring African artists onto Maker's Place. Maker's Place, like Super Rare and some other marketplaces, they're like they are curated marketplaces, right? The work has already been done in terms of ensuring the quality of the artwork, ensuring that the work was really made by the artist who claims to have made the work. So the work has been done in terms of the curation, and that is very much needed, curation, because when the collector goes on to Maker's Place or Super Rare or Nifty Gateway, for example, they know the work has been done for them. What they have to focus on, what speaks to them now, right? That is what they have to focus on. And also, that is why it is very much important for the curated marketplaces to be more open to artists. I know they have a lot of things they are doing in terms of vetting artists and verifying artists, but they have to create like certain programs to sort of bring artists from certain parts of the world onto their platform. For example, artists from Africa, artists from Nigeria, who don't have as much leverage as artists from, say, the West, right? That is important. As an African person, as a Nigerian, if I were a collector, which I am, I'd naturally go looking for artworks that speak to my experience. And if I don't find it, then there's something missing. So curation is very much needed to ensure the sophistication, the intellectual depth that is very much needed to ensure quality in the space.
So you mentioned in your intro some of the collaborations you've had, Christie, Sotheby's, very highly respected art houses and auction houses. And there's so many other great artists out there who may never get those opportunities. And I wonder, what are some things that you did along your journey to create the attention to where they learned about you and ultimately generate the interest in your work?
I think that the first thing was to stay authentic in my work, in the sort of work I create. I wasn't trying to copy anybody just because that person was selling, right? I just stayed true to my work, my style, right? If you're an artist, you have a journey right in front of you. The first journey is to, of course, learn the thing about art and whatever. But the first most important journey is to find your unique voice in the space, in the art scene. It's important because I am Osinachi. I shouldn't go painting like Basquiat because that's Basquiat, right? So if when you find your unique voice, then you can. It means staying authentic in what you're doing. Your story, the issues you tackle through your work, which can evolve over time, and these things are not like straight jacketed. They can evolve. Right. They can change over time. Then you have to move intentionally, right? In the space, you have to ask yourself, where do you want to be and who are those you think that can take you there? And then you go knocking on their doors. That is what I've basically been doing even before entering the NFT space.
Sending cold emails.
I sent a lot, like so much. They are still there from 2017 to 2018, like sending out my portfolio, and funny enough, some would get back and it's the same story. And I remember one gallery somewhere in Europe, I think it's in London, that I received a reply, and it said, what does he mean by he makes this on Microsoft Word? Obviously, I wasn't supposed to see that. It was supposed to be an internal email. And so
somebody responded to a BCC and put
exactly. Yeah. So you'd see all of that. It's normal. So you have to move intentionally, and you have to reach out to artists who you think have been there where you want to be, so they can also help guide you. They can help make connections. That's also one thing that comes with being a crypto art OG, which is that I've worked with these marketplaces, I've worked with these guys, and I can talk to them, right? They may not say yes, but at least they'd be aware of what I'm telling them about.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about what's happening right now in crypto with and how it relates to NFTs. So I have this conversation a lot because the market's down in crypto, that there's people who say, I told you that crypto was a scam, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, look, I think about, the great philosopher Kanye West saying, listen to the kids, bro. And so I have kids, and if I had $100 bill in cash, US dollars, and $100 in Roblox dollars, they would have a difficult time deciding which one to take. And that tells me a lot, because their popularity, their friends, their community is in this virtual world. And so therefore the things that give them prestige is represented by virtual goods. And the same thing with digital art. I think about it in ways of, okay, I own these PFPs, I own this digital art, I own these other pieces from artists who I've collected. How do you imagine spaces will evolve to be able to display my work that I've collected?
I think the evolution is already happening. We have companies that are making screens that you can use to show your digital art collection. And that is there. I'm also grateful for the experience of people in the traditional art world who are using, their skills in the trad art world and bringing it into the NFT space, to help in terms of curation and display and all of that. And that's the beautiful thing I like about what I've been doing for the past 3 years or so, which is collaborating with the trad art space guys and bridging both spaces, right? So that we can take the positive from here and take the positive from here and move on, and make the world really a better place. So that's basically what I think about that.
So I was looking up your work on like OpenSea and different platforms, and I wonder how artists go about pricing that initial offering. So one piece made the initial floor be at, let's say I'm making up numbers, but 0.1 ETH. but you may feel this one I'm going to put up at of 1 ETH, one full ETH. How do you go about determining what that initial price is going to be?
Well, as an artist who's been there for years, I'd look at the past sales I've made and how the market has naturally moved my price up, right? And so I can decide on the price to peg on that. I can also decide to let the forces of the market do its thing. For example, mint a piece and put it out there and start getting bids. So bid one, maybe 20K, bid two, 40K. So you let the market sort of decide that also for you. But if you're a new artist in the space, you want to start small, you want to start little, right? Because that what you're trying to do is to show people that this is what I do. There's a consistency to what I do, and there's a promise here, right, in terms of value. So I want you to come in at this small price range and appreciate my work. So you start little there, and you could, what I've noticed is that you could get caught in the web of littleness, what I call it, and that is that there's this artist, Nigerian artist, who makes incredible work, and when he came into the space, he started putting out his work for 1 ETH, 1 ETH, 1 ETH, 1 ETH. I just kept going at 1 ETH.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me and said, my work isn't selling for so much and all of that. I told him, you have to do something yourself. You can sort of push your price up. And he tried it and went to 5 ETH. And people, of course, still kept buying, right? So you don't want to be caught in that.
Caught in littleness. I like that. I like that.
So there's no one answer, really. You just have to sort of read the room and see what is happening.
Yeah. There's this quote I found. You said you were talking about the decentralization and traditional spaces and not originally being embraced by traditional art spaces. And you said we were looking for a more decentralized world because our experiences in the real world where gatekeepers are just holding onto the keys and allowing only those who they want to put through those gates. And so the decentralized nature of NFTs and digital art allows people to just do what's authentic to them. This is not you saying, I'm saying this now. And so can you talk about how digital art is being embraced by traditional institutions that historically did not embrace it?
It's interesting. First of all, I'm surprised I said that. That is a quote by me.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's deep. I didn't know I was that intelligent. But what is happening now is that, first of all, these traditional arts institutions like auction houses, museums, galleries, they know that digital arts, at least some within, if you have a basket of digital art, you can find some that you can reckon with, that you like, you can put in your space, right? But before the blockchain, they didn't know how to, show proof of authenticity, proof of ownership, proof of scarcity, and all of that.
Provenance.
Yeah, and then the blockchain came and offered that. And then the value came with digital art. And then with the value came their own interest in digital arts, which we are seeing now, right? And what I've seen is that there's a lot of knowledge that they are bringing as traditional art specialists into the digital art world, right? I think I've said this before in terms of curation and display and all of that. But furthermore, they are engaging with digital art in very new ways. For example, museums, I would say this is pioneering through the Toledo Museum of Art. They are using NFTs as a way to engage their community, right? Just beyond the physical, just beyond the other things they've been doing before. NFTs are now serving as a way for them to engage their community. The same thing is happening with auction houses, which are now expanding their collector base, the people that they've been working with, right? And they are now providing services to people who are interested in digital art, maybe for the first time, or people who have been interested in digital art from the start. Same thing is happening with galleries. which are now learning about NFTs and digital art. You are forced to learn. If you're a gallery owner, you have to know what's happening, because the collectors you've been working with over the years are interested in this thing that is making waves. They're asking themselves, what are NFTs? What is all this? And they would come to you naturally as the gallery to ask questions, because you always guide them in terms of collecting. So you have to do the work, and you are forced to do the work. And generally, that helps the digital artist. And so before, digital art used to be at the bottom of the shelf. Now it's right there, up there with the traditional arts pieces that you see at museums. My work has been collected by a museum, Buffalo AKG Arts Museum. 10 years ago, I'd never had that dream. Like, I'd never thought that would happen. And yeah, it's about the digital artist right now. People would say, why would someone buy a digital artwork for $69 million? It's not about the money. It's about the message that sends, which is that digital art has come to stay. It's no longer, the times have passed when corporations and whoever can reach out to digital artists and say, hey, do this project for us, and they pay you $1,000 and they own whatever you've created. And then you go through this the cycle of looking for another gig. And then you never get to make the kind of art you want to make.
That's right.
Because you're hungry. And now you're sure that you can put food on your table as a digital artist somehow through NFTs. Also through royalties for life, and be able to create the kind of art that you want to make. So this guy is coming in. I think it's a great thing. But of course, there are Web2 brands that are making mistakes. I don't think they fully understand what is happening. And mistakes are lessons. I guess they'll learn and maybe find a way to come back better.
I want you to talk about Makerspace a little bit, your accelerator, and why was it important to you to create an accelerator to help other African designers, artists find their way through the world of NFTs?
So at some point, I started getting messages from Nigerian artists and artists from other parts of Africa that, they've sent their application to this marketplace and it took them 8 months to get a response. And when they got the response, it was a no, and so on and so forth. And that got me thinking that if these curated marketplaces are just not paying attention to the location of artists who are sending in their applications, and probably prioritizing, some of the artists based on the artists they already have. For example, you could have 100 artists on your platform, and 70% of them are from the US or wherever, and 20% they are from Europe, and then only 10% are from, say, Asia or Africa, right? Combined. That doesn't help the space in terms of the stories you want to put out through the art that you're helping these artists sell. And so I started advocating for a sort of equal grounds and a sort of priority also for African artists. So what Africa here did in collaboration with Makerspace is to remove that hurdle of, hey, come and put in your application and wait for us to get back to you, right? It became a way for these artists to, through the quality work they are doing, get onboarded on Makerspace without having to apply, and also have their work shown at Basel, Miami, which was what sort of capped off the whole thing.
Lastly, I want you to just talk a little bit about any responsibility you might feel as we're having this conversation about longevity of digital art on the blockchain. What kind of responsibility, if any, do you feel to be representative of success as an artist who's focused on digital media?
In terms of the responsibility, I think, first of all, I have a responsibility to stay authentic in what I do, no matter what comes, right? A responsibility to keep walking through doors as the first person to go through those doors, and to leave those doors open, to hold those doors open for other artists other digital artists who are coming after me. I feel a responsibility to refocus people's attention from talking about the money to talking about the art itself, right? And I hope other artists would do the same thing. I hope that collectors in the space would do the same thing, because the space has changed in so many ways. There are so many crypto art OGs who are not so happy with what is happening in the space. It's not what they envisioned. It's like it's been hijacked, right?
Yeah.
But we can't run away, right? We just have to keep advocating, keep doing our thing, and telling people how we think it would be best for the space to turn out to be. Because when you look at it 10 years from now, you'd see that we're not really just working for ourselves. We're working for the kids who are coming up, who are growing up with screens, who are going to be looking at digital arts like almost all their life. We're going to walk into museums or galleries, and digital art is very much part and parcel of the collection there.
Osinachi, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, man.